Good evening, everyone. Today is June 10th, 2025. I'll call the North Liberty City Council meeting to order. How you doing, Stacy?
Good, thank you.
Hey, could we have a roll call, please?
Sure can. Leibold?
Here.
Park? Sittig?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Wason?
Here.
Thank you. I am without. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. There's nothing changed on the agenda. Could I have a motion for approval?
So moved. I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda passes. Item 4 is our consent agenda. Is there anything on there you want me to pull off and talk about separately? Seeing none, could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Sittig. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda carries. Item 5 is our public comment. Now it's time for anyone out there in the audience that has a comment that's not already part of the agenda coming up. Please let us know. Seeing none, I will close the public comment and move to item 6, which is our engineer's report. Josiah.
Thanks, Mayor. I wanted to update you guys on one project in design, the splash pad, Centennial Park splash pad. We're working through a schematic design. We put together a number of items and reviewed those with city staff. We're looking at things like layout, size, water features, parking, and walkways through it to sort of get the framework put together. That process wraps up in July, and then we'll take that information and move into the next, starting to design it out and develop the details. So that's where we're at with the splash pad. Couple of construction notes. This is mostly just a reminder for those listening or watching, because I know you guys know, but the Penn Street Bridge over I-380 is being replaced, and the ramps are being rebuilt the next 2 years. The first ramp closure began today, Tuesday, June 10th. The northbound on-ramp is now closed for reconstruction, and that'll be about 2 to 3 months. There is a detour in place. You'll be directed to go south on 380 down to Forever Green Road, get off the exit there, turn around, and head back north. So that is in place right now. Freedom Park Trail is our next trail project. That work actually started this week. The first few weeks, it'd be site setup and grading and storm sewer. That involves construction of a 6-foot walk in Freedom Park, including connections to the neighborhood. And it also improves some of the storm sewer and air curb and stuff up on that cul-de-sac where we'll be connecting to by the park. North Liberty Road trails, obviously still ongoing. All of the curb ramps along Penn Street across from the park on the north side are done and open. That means that we anticipate the next couple weeks they'll be starting to work on the south side of Penn Street, the receiving ramps and things like that, where those ramps you'll walk to. There's also some street that's going to be replaced there, so that's what we're looking at the next couple weeks. The focus of that work. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Josiah. Are there any questions? I'll move on to item 7, which is our city administrator report. Ryan.
Thank you. A couple things for me, upcoming events or projects. First is it's the time of year again to review social service applications. You might recall we changed that process up a little bit last year and asked the city council to score them, and then we compiled those results and put them in front of you for additional deliberation. So we'll be doing that again this year. And hope to get something out to you here shortly so that we can have a conversation in July on those applications. And then also, we are very close to wrapping up the reports with Shive Hattery regarding the fire station. And we're tentatively planning for a July 8th discussion on those reports and potential next steps. We do want to get those out to you early, so expect to see those in your inbox before the end of the month. Hopefully within the next week or so, you'll have those reports to chew on and be able to have a little more time to prepare for that discussion. So those are two topics coming up that I wanted to make sure you were aware of. And with that, I don't have anything else to report unless there are any questions.
Any other questions for Ryan?
Ryan, with social service, remind me, there was a discussion about approving for 2 years at a time and going in combination with Coralville. Where are we with that?
So this would be working through the United Way. And so the United Way collected applications this year. And the idea would be then what the council approves as a 2-year commitment, assuming we have funding available in that next fiscal year. It's still all dependent on council's approval of that budget. The idea here is a couple of things. One, it's less burdensome for the organizations. One application, and then it can go to all 3 entities, City of Iowa City, well, all 4 when you throw the county in, and then they also then have the ability to be prepared for the following year. So kind of giving them a heads up that assuming funding levels remain the same, they know they have that coming. So this will be our first year, so we'll see how that works.
Good question. We'll talk about that again soon. Any other questions for Ryan? All right, I'll move on to item 8, the mayor's report. Just a couple of things. I was lucky enough to attend a retirement ceremony a couple of weeks ago with Lori Meyer. You all know Lori. She's been very active in the North Liberty community for, I wrote down over 25 years, but it's been longer than that. So she's finally retired and getting to go do some things that she wants to do in life. But Lori's been a tremendous leader and representative of our community for a long, long time, predating everybody at this table in there. So she said she may come back and help out in some way. So that might be good, or we'll see how that goes. But wish her well on her retirement. There are a couple of events coming up in the city. Otherwise, I don't have a lot of other things to report, but I wanted to make sure that we mention all of the summer slate that's coming up. And eminently, this weekend, we have the Love Fly event happening out at Centennial Park from 11 until 3. Next weekend, Camp North Liberty is happening overnight, Friday night through Saturday morning up at the community center and all of those spaces around there. The swimming pool will be an active place the next day for the cardboard boat regatta. And there'll be the summer concert series at Rancho House is that night on Friday night as well. And the summer reading program kicks off tomorrow night, also up at the Rancho House with a Splash and Scoop event and a lot of other events throughout the summer at the library, the Rancho House, the Summer Lunch and Learn program. So not having kids at that age that are taking part in those events, it was kind of exciting to kind of relive those things. So if you haven't yet been out to our events page, check that out. There's literally something out there for everybody to be a part of. That's all I have tonight. I'll move this on to item 9, which are council reports. Yes, sir.
So just going along with that, thank you to all the companies and stuff that's really sponsoring all these summer slate events. We kind of facilitate a few things, but they're paying for everything, so it's been much appreciated. And then just one thing, when people want to look at the packet for tonight, you can go down to towards the bottom of it. They actually have the use of force report from the police department, which was pretty enlightening. And actually, it's almost non-use of force. It's very isolated, so I was pretty glad to see that things seem to be working pretty good, and they've really seemed to be doing a good job of kind of keeping things low-key when they need to.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. That was a significant report that the PD put together for us this month. Anyone else?
Last Friday, I went to the pantry sneak peek. They had a tour with a number of people. It was really amazing to see that building coming together. And they plan to open a week from next Monday. So, and there will be an open house, I think July, I want to say 14th, but I'm not sure. So, but keep an eye out for that, because it really is, I mean, the partnership that they're going to have with the county for social services, hosting social services there, and just the amount of space that they have is just amazing compared to what they've been in for the last however long.
Brent, anything?
Just one event for me this past week. I was able to attend the mid-year economic review at the DoubleTree in Cedar Rapids. So I just want to take an opportunity to thank the CBJ for another great event. That's always a nice checkpoint at the middle of the year on how the economy is and where we're headed. So I appreciate all the efforts with that. And again, thanks to the CBJ for that event. And then I will take this opportunity with all of you up here and all of those in our community to wish everyone an early happy Father's Day. So that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. All right, I will move on to item 10, which is our local option sales tax discussion. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay.
You can MC the events.
Sure. Well, I provided some background in your packet, and this is a topic we've, as you have read, no doubt, that we've talked about and explored over the years with the first vote, at least in my memory, in 2009, and the second vote coming in 2014, neither of which were successful. The Greater Iowa City team has been collaborating with local groups and with other communities to see if there's interest in trying to get a local option sales tax passed in the area. And I know Coralville has had some discussion. Iowa City has had some now as well. So we are the, and I can't really, I don't know that I have a report for you on either of those discussions, and I suspect maybe someone from Greater IC could better speak to those discussions. But I think for tonight's purpose, what we're trying to determine is the City Council interested in pursuing a local option sales tax? That'd be step one. Step two then would be to determine how those funds would be allocated. And there are many moving parts to a local option sales tax, and a lot of data I presented you. I don't want to regurgitate it all, but I would say that just as an overview, a local option sales tax is required to be voted on by a community. In order for the community to vote, the City Council has established some sort of revenue purpose or revenue statement or question that can be decided on by the community. So, for example, in our most recent ballot language, we had said we were going to put 50% to street projects, 40% to water and wastewater utilities, and 10% to parks. Something like that has to be on the ballot for the community to consider. So, I guess I might just stop right there and get feedback from the group on what your thoughts are on the local option sales tax. As I mentioned, we have members here from Greater Iowa City who I'm sure would be happy to answer questions or comment on anything if you so choose.
I'm going to ask Nancy or Katie, would either one of you be able to expand a little bit about what's changed in that local option sales tax law requirements? I mean, I'm teeing up, I think, it's a softball. Nice job, Nancy. Cueing this over to Katie.
Well, since 2019, let me see how to say this word. The contiguousness.
Oh, look at me.
Mr. Lance. The requirement that cities be contiguous to pass it has now been set aside. And so when you look at what the options are for local municipalities to work together, we are asking that everybody work together and towards a regional priority, but that's not a requirement under the law anymore. And so cities can go alone, they can go together. The only impact you have with contiguous cities is it changes the formula. So based on who's in the county and a property tax levy formula from in the early 80s, that's what sets up your local option sales tax, as well as 50% of it must be given to property tax relief, which is another change in the law.
Thank you. Yeah, those are the two things, the contiguousness of it and the 50% needs to go to property tax relief are differences than what we were looking at in 2009 and 2014.
Yes.
For these. Okay. kind of open the floor up. I guess I'll start. I'll say that this initiative that has failed twice in the past, I think failed for a couple of reasons, some of which have changed. The biggest one is that there's a requirement that half of whatever's received goes towards property tax relief. That might effectively reduce an increase that we have out there in property taxes, or it might actually be a reduction that we face, depending on what the city's budgets look like. The ability for our communities to work together, I think the landscape has changed a lot in the last 11 years as well. There's a lot more collaboration in our region for this to occur than what might have been out there 11 years ago. I'm overall in support of an attempt to put this together with 50% of it going towards property tax relief, and as is being asked of us as a region, to put 20% more of that to a countywide housing initiative, as that's been identified in there, and then allowing us the other 30% to be used for specific purposes and projects here in North Liberty. And I think that's part of what we're attempting to answer here tonight in step 2.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I would obviously the first step is are folks interested in exploring this. We can certainly get some ideas about how to spend it, and then bring proposed language back for folks to wrap their arms around as well.
One point of clarification, and it might be for you guys, it might be here, with the ballot language and the differences. Can we have ballot language unique to North Liberty that is different if we wanted from Iowa City and or different from Coralville?
Yes.
Or is it all the same ballot language?
North Liberty would be unique.
Would be unique. So
Each
then,
community would be unique.
okay, so 2 questions then, as I understand, in front of us, right? One, are we interested in pursuing sales tax? And then the second would be, then how do we want to spend it? So I think it's important to get past that first one,
Yes.
and then have more discussion on verbiage and how we would want to spend that.
And if I could clarify my statement, if each city has, there's no requirement that each city has the same language. If this group decided that housing was an initiative, I believe that the Greater IC has proposed housing language that all 3 cities could use.
Could incorporate.
That piece could be identical.
Could be identical,
So,
if we so choose.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So for right now, let's go back and focus on the item that you brought up, Counselor, on generally this concept. Is it a worthwhile discussion for us to have in a pursuit in this model? 50% property tax relief, 20% towards a countywide housing, and then we have another 30%.
I would say we need to decide if we're going to pursue that first before dictating. I don't know that we've fully agreed that, yes, we're going to pursue it.
That's what I'm asking. Are we going to pursue it?
I would say from my seat, yes, pursue. And then where do we allocate the dollars?
And that's the second step.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So the first question would be, should we pursue local option sales tax? From my seat, yes.
I agree. I mean, I think sales tax are inherently regressive in some ways, but I think with what we're seeing from the state legislature as far as city budgets go and property taxes, I think it's probably something that we're going to need to do.
I've always been in favor of this. I thought that the county has missed the mark and lost its opportunity multiple times over years with the squabbling between cities. I thought it was very unfortunate at the time, and I still believe that. I think that this should have been in place 25 years ago, and it just never was. I think for the citizens of North Liberty, the way I've always viewed this is a way for us to have our visitors help us pay our bills. I think the breakdown and maybe what the priority is needs discussion, as I had with Mackenzie when we met about it. But I think ultimately, yes. And how many counties in Iowa have it, and how many don't? 98.
I believe I read
97.
93% of the communities who could have it,
So everybody in Iowa has it but us,
pretty much.
and has had it for quite a while. And so, it's obviously good for the vast majority of those that live in Iowa, and it's been very successful. So I don't know why it couldn't be here.
So my only other thought on that is we've been fortunate with growth that we didn't need it like other people and stuff. But I think I'm pretty much agreeing with Eric that the state legislature in trying to fix some problems is creating other problems. And I think this is one of the ways that we're going to be able to fix part of that, because their current legislation for property taxes is going to have a negative impact on everything probably in the next year or so. So now I will just tell you, I'm not excited about the 20% housing. So.
Okay. Step one, complete.
Okay.
So now, how specific do we want to get in this, the items to cover? Or are we at a point where we're collecting ideas right now for you, maybe to filter through?
Well, it would be, I think, helpful to understand, or at least get some decent direction on what this group would like to see these funds used for. In the memo here, we suggested that a good chunk of them could go for capital improvements, which would meet the property tax relief requirement, because most likely these are projects that are being borrowed for. I think, generally speaking, we think it makes sense to keep it, treat it as, I'll use the term one-time money, but if there's an end period here, I don't think we want to, put a staff person on or use it for those types of things. And then I think probably the bigger elephant in the room here is, do you want to do something with housing with that 20% so that we can give Greater IC an idea of where we stand on that?
All right, so I guess maybe let's start with that 20% request. I think all of us have had Greater IC as an audience in this discussion, in this topic. Is there more information that you want, or things that you want to talk about? I guess, Brian, let's just go backwards because it was something that you're not in favor of. So
I just know that we have quite a bit of money already with the trust fund and not really got very far with it. So I would not be opposed to using it for projects that were housing related, but I think that I don't want to put it in the language so that it's restricted to that. So if somebody come up with a good idea that people could get together, I think that would be fine. But I still want to tie the language to that.
So are you talking about the entire 50% chunk, or that 20%?
I would probably make the other 50% an essential corporate purpose.
Okay.
I think that's the name for it.
Okay. I've kind of been of the mindset that the 20%, if it can be used regionally, can either of you expand on some efforts that we could funnel these monies to as a region that might either enhance existing programs, or are there programs that doors may be opened because we now are, as a region, putting more money into an effort? If I could put you on the spot on that one.
Certainly no programs have been established that we're asking you to support with this money, but we were modeling it after Invest DSM, at least our initial 20% were, which is a homeownership promotion, as well as rental rehabilitation and other supports. So I will say in Iowa City, the political landscape there is pushing more towards housing supports for AMI levels at 0 to 60%, but we're using the word housing very generally to ensure that we're impacting the entire supply. So, it would have to be, each city is making different determinations. In terms of a regional approach, I would say each city has programs that we could then help you establish, or you could push it to Housing Trust Fund or Habitat for Humanity or other organizations that are doing that work already.
Okay.
The problem is they're not adequately funded at this point to do what they need to do, and this could really move the needle on making some of those efforts. We know that workforce issues that we're hearing from businesses are that there's a missing middle of housing stock available, and we've heard from Lion Development Group and other groups that they're very interested in pursuing different types of neighborhoods, models, and housing styles so that the people that are working for their companies can actually live in North Liberty, which they can't right now.
Okay. So that was kind of exciting. I won't say exciting like in bells and whistles, but we have programs in place right now that can be used regionally that could be further enhanced to do more with them. Okay.
We're not asking for a new housing organization or any sort of new sort of setup in that way, but we also know that you could invest some of this housing money directly into your strategic investment districts in Cherry Street. We could talk about denser developments, more affordable homeowner units for people to live, work, and enjoy North Liberty.
Okay.
Mayor, I'm in a similar boat, and I think I'll approach this as it's not that I am opposed to the 20% to housing, because that's not the case. My cautionary tale to McKinsey when we talked, which I strongly believe in, that cautionary tale here is it will not fly like it will in Iowa City. They're different priorities. Now, we have partnered with a number of partners. Ellen in the back, we have partnered a number of times. And the projects, I believe, that have come through that partnership that have been voted on and have passed, we've seen great things here in North Liberty. And I did not hear pushback from constituents when we voted in favor of those projects. The cautionary tale is I think the flexibility that we would need built in here is maybe much more. And I don't know that it would be harder for us to clearly define what that is, like Iowa City is doing. Because the folks that live here see things a little bit differently, in my opinion. And I think that if it's marketed in the right way, and if it can show the benefit specifically to North Liberty, I think maybe more specifically in rental rehabilitation to make some housing more affordable, we might be better off. But if we drill in specifically at specific housing projects, that will fail here. And that is my cautionary tale here in this partnership. It's not that I disagree with the direction or how we can make this work. I've lived here a long time, and I have my finger on the pulse here, and I want to see this be successful. And so I think we have to be very creative in the way that we partner with that 20% if we do that, to make sure that it will be North Liberty centric and it will meet the needs of North Libertarians that will be voting in favor of it. And then it's getting out and doing the work and marketing. And I guess the other two cities have, had these conversations, but it seems slow already. And it already feels like we're a little bit behind in getting this ballot language and getting it out and having the amount of time that we need to do the education to our constituents. So I want to be cautious there too, Mayor. I'd rather move more quickly on this than not, to give them the time, if that's the true partnership that we're going to do, to get out and get that education going. So that's my thought on this.
I want to build on that a little bit because I agree with a lot of what you said. From a time frame perspective, when does language need to be done? When do we have to have, an understanding or at least somewhat of an agreement on what to do with the remaining 50%? Is it 2 weeks from now? Is it 2 months from now? That will help, I think, inform our decision on how much we dedicate, to getting the language right within the proposed, and then also the percentages right. So that's my
That was
first
in-
question
I
is
think
when?
that was in Ryan's memo. It needs
it?
to be
Did
to
I-
the
and I
county
missed
by
it?
September 19th.
September 19th.
Yeah,
Okay.
then that's the ballot. So
That's language.
that's language.
Okay.
That's
for the
language.
ballot.
Okay.
Yeah. So tonight is a matter of, what do we do with this other 50% that we can control? And specifically carving that up as a 20% bucket maybe and a 30% bucket. And the 30% bucket is just for us to use in some way. We don't really necessarily need to zero in on that language at this moment,
Right.
this minute, but let's talk about that 20% because Counselor, I think you're on track with specific to North Liberty, the language or the proposed 20% of such revenues shall be used for programs and initiatives that increase housing supply and access, including but not limited to. That whole stream in our packet right here might be I don't know, it might be good enough. It might need a little bit more focus towards the rental programs. So what are your thoughts about that? And for those of you following along, it's on page 33 in the middle of that, just before we get into the history. Does that wording need to be a little bit more specific?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we need to leave it as broad as possible, honestly, because I've been involved in places where they had lost and had to redo the election because the language was not broad enough to do what they wanted to do with it.
Okay.
And I don't want us to come back in 5 years and say we have to redo this because we can't do with this money what we want to do with it. I guess that's my initial thought, but I don't know how that plays necessarily with voters. Do they want to see more specifics? Do you guys have any data on any of that?
What we're hearing is that the more general you can be with the language, the less you're tying your hands as a future council or future councils. And so that's what we're requesting, is that you would use the words housing. Housing advocates are also asking for the word shelter supports or things like that in Iowa City. They're broadening the language around housing to give more guardrails to future councils, but also very general word housing would be sufficient.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Each time you spend the money, that's where you make the decision about the project. Housing can be very, very broad. I would also say, we've sent you our existing conditions from the Strategic Investment Districts projects, and you'll see only about 40% of the workforce that's coming to this area are living in North Liberty. And there's a real opportunity with additional housing investment to bring a greater workforce to the area.
So for a little clarity, the dollars as they flow, if this is passed, Ryan has numbers in here, what the revenue might look like, but 20% of that comes back to North Liberty for housing purposes, with a language maybe that you've crafted here with some help from others. And then we can do with that, future councils can do with that 20% stream of revenue, whatever fits best for them.
100% comes back to North Liberty of your portion.
Yes, yes.
And then you decide with those guardrails you've set up on the ballot language.
Yep,
Yes.
gotcha.
And I think if I could just elaborate on that a bit, while the 20% may or may not be with a regional program or a local program, it's important to note that that 20% still needs another approval from the city council to move that to any project. So it's not as if, just to be clear, and I don't think we've said this, but just to be clear, that 20% isn't going to go to another entity to be used regionally. It's going to stay right here until this group or future groups make decisions on how to spend it.
So I guess for me, that goes back into the clarity of what we're asking for in this language. 20% of the revenues that we're going to be getting back are going to be designated for housing initiatives, whether it's supply and access, shelter supports, neighborhood reinvestment, workforce housing gap support. It's broad in those sense. Councilor Smith, rental rehabilitation is identified in there. So it has a lot in there that future councils can pick what serves their needs at that time.
Yeah. So my thought on that though is don't be that specific. And then you can do, if some project comes along, like we had the other day when they came and talked about the workforce down there, and they said, hey, well, we don't have that plan, but people then could say, hey, we have a great idea. And then we can say, hey, we have some money for this. But if we just say, hey, we were doing this 20%, and we can't do anything with it, I mean, even if you're somewhat generous, some other things that probably would be better served by the community could be left off. But I think you would need to be open to, projects.
And I think the portion of the last sentence is "and other housing projects designated by city council."
Yeah. But I would just leave the whole thing out, and then you, whatever you want to do, you could do. So if you didn't, like a year, nothing was there, we didn't want to do anything in particular.
For housing.
Right. And then the next year, maybe some project comes up and there's like a huge, several $100,000, thing that
In
pops up.
previous years, any lawful purpose has failed in this community. And it's really hard to design a campaign around any lawful purpose. I will say we've had great success with the conservation bond.
Yeah.
We were able to really rally a regional support for that. And that's what we're offering as Greater IC, is that collaborative convening of wide community partners and leading the campaign. Otherwise, it's pretty challenging for a city to mount a campaign like this to increase your funding. We're also making sure to inform people that this is the local lever you have left. And we'd like to help you pull it.
I agree, Katie. And I mentioned this to staff this last week, and after meeting with Mackenzie and some of that conversation, the success of the conservation bond was because of lots of people that you and I work with frequently. But it was also specifically the vote tally was impressive. Why? Because everybody likes their trails. I think people live here and in this corridor specifically because of one of the things is livability and those outdoor accesses. And the conservation bond before was able to show and prove what they had spent that money on, and some really awesome things that occurred that I think many of us go out and enjoy on the weekends and the summertime, right? Winter, even with snowshoeing. And so people saw that, they saw what it was, and they saw what it could be with the new ballot language. But that was that specific topic, to my point with Mackenzie, was the riverfront has been talked about for decades. And it still sits there undeveloped. It's not even in our community. It's right outside the community. It's very easy to get there, just down the road. And I can take a kayak down there and throw it on the river. But I can't do that because there's 2 low-head dams and, there's all of those things. So I just, making that comparison, maybe that's not fair, but that's kind of what's come to my mind is making the comparison and showing 2 TV screens in my brain. The commercial about riverfront development and being able to kayak the Iowa River, or do you want money to go to housing in North Liberty? Slam dunk, get us on the river, right? It would be much easier of a sell. I just think I understand, and I under the right marketing strategy might be swayed on being general with housing. But I'm ringing the caution bell now because it's going to be a hard sell here. So I don't know how to sell it.
Sorry to interrupt you. You don't think the language that's in here is general enough?
No, I understand the arguments of what everybody's saying, and even Brian is saying it, and not really being for it, but being more general versus specific of what I said for, rental rehab. If you don't want to be that specific, I understand that, and it makes sense to me of why you would want to be more general. But how are you going to sell that to this community that I've never heard have a resounding voice on the streets that we need X housing, we need housing rehabilitation? We know that we do, but we're involved with it. And we've seen projects come and partnerships with Ellen and others. But the folks that live here that don't watch these meetings, which is most.
Well, you're not a member of the North Liberty Mamas Facebook group, then. I need to get you in there.
Well aware of that.
I would say that housing is what we hear consistently across all sectors, primarily It's not just a nonprofit or human service issue. We're hearing it from businesses. It's the primary issue we're hearing in all of our surveys. It's the primary question that people have when they send in site selection opportunities is there adequate housing for the workforce that's needed here? We also know that there's significant issues with the mobile home communities and that they're going to need places that are safe, livable, habitable, and affordable so that we don't lose those residents. And we also need a diversity of housing supply. So I know that when I hear from Jessica Andino at the Affordable Housing Coalition, and I hear from Jenny Wunderlich at the HBA, and I'm hearing from Brandon Pratt at Lion Development, and it's housing. And it's the fight about what type of housing and how to use that money is for a future council. But I can tell you that the desire, what we're hearing, is that housing is expensive and people are being priced out of our market. We had a talent attraction program with the state of Iowa. They were touting a huge success. And what the success story was is that somebody moved to Cedar Rapids because they couldn't afford to live in North Liberty in our area. And that's not the story we want to be able to tell, is that if somebody wants to live here, we want them to be able to find the unit that they can afford within their means, as well as that it's affordable to them and doesn't exceed affordability standards for both their income and the region.
And that's why I'm in this really hard seat, Katie, because I understand and I believe in all of that because I've seen other projects and I've been involved with other things. I'm not convinced that the folks that are living here are going to understand those things and vote for it. Are the developers crying for people? Yes, and we hear it. Are the surveys from businesses saying we need more workforce? Yes, and we understand and we hear it. I just don't. That's why we have to be careful with the way that we market this, because if that's the market, if that's the commercial, they're going to turn the channel and they're not going to vote for it because they don't understand it. And I just don't think that folks here have that as a priority. So while I agree, and I do, and we need to do something, because a lot of the things that I have talked about with economic development and trying to get businesses here, we have bid and we have lost because of things like this, because there wasn't enough folks to fill a business that needs 450 employees. So do we need it? Yes. How do we sell it? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Well, that's why you have us. So we would love to sell it. We also know that there's something for everybody in this lost. So you get people that want property tax relief. You talk about what that 50% means. You talk about what the other 30% can be used for. You find the thing that North Liberty sells, and we would support that campaign. It sounds very positive, though, that you want lost on the ballot. It's just a matter of the language. And so, we can do some workshopping with you. We can talk with local businesses. We can work on that together, but we do know and we do hear housing as a priority from everyday constituents as well.
What were the other, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Eric. What were the other priorities that were listed as you guys met and you discussed? What were the other priorities on the list and how do we fall to housing?
Arts organizations, quality of life, those sorts of livability issues that are going to be on the chopping block when property taxes reform goes through.
Yeah.
Childcare especially.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
No, I mean, I think I do hear housing prices are an issue from people. And I think this is, I look at the language, I'm kind of on the fence about whether we want to put that language in. You're telling me that any lawful purpose is not a selling point. Maybe this is. I guess I wasn't quite sure what to expect coming away from discussing with Mackenzie what this would look like. And I think I like what's here better than some things that were popping into my head as possibilities. And I think this is general, but also specific. I mean, it lists some things that we can grab onto and say, this is what we're thinking about. But it also, it doesn't tie us to anything in particular other than housing.
And all in North Liberty, though.
I mean, that would be
Yes.
my hope, yeah. unless there's something that some project.
No,
that
I
we
would
can
want
support.
to make sure that it would be in North Liberty, like to your point, unless it's like, yeah, we need to contribute to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about, we've got a lot of land between Coralville and North Liberty where we've got a boundary that could potentially be developed at the same time, and maybe that's something we would want to join, and maybe then some money goes to Coralville because we're putting it all in the same pot. But I mean, I think there are ways. As I sit with this, I'm more comfortable with the language that's presented here.
I think if it was all lawyers voting, any lawful purpose would be amazing. But because it's hard to explain and say, just trust your government, trust your officials, they're going to,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to sell when you have those keywords. I would love for you to add childcare, but that's not the priority that Greater IC's board has identified. But hopefully with that other 30% in 5 years, when you've paid off the debt service that on whatever project you have put forward, then we're going to come forward and ask you to fund those childcare initiatives. You'll have that lever because you did this.
So we don't really, so you have 50% that you have to designate, but you don't have to really designate a percent of anything, do you?
Say that one more time. You don't have to designate
Right,
50.
so you could say, we're going to use the other 50% for housing initiatives, social services, parks, and public safety. You
And
could
the
just
other
say that.
50% goes to property tax relief? You could.
Yeah.
So then maybe that's a way of saying, hey, this is what we want to use, and you pick up what you want to hear out of that. Oh, we're going to do that, and maybe not making the percentages, but put the things in there, but maybe not tie the percentage to it.
That was going to be my question to build off that a little bit, was how is the 20% arrived at? How did we come up with that percentage? Is that just kind of consistent amongst all the communities, or do we have to have that language? No?
Each city can pick their own language. I know there are people in the room that would hope that you'd put it at 50% to housing.
I 100% agree. Yes. I would just,
but yes,
understanding how it was
20% felt like
arrived.
a significant enough amount we could really move the needle.
okay, then how often is that 20% revisited?
As soon as you pass it on the ballot language, that's what it is until you pass a new one.
Until we pass a new one, which would be another vote,
Or until it expires, yeah.
or until it expires? Okay.
That'll be another
They
question.
don't
we'll
have
mention.
to expire, do they?
Doesn't have to. That's another question
Yeah, and what's Greater IC's feeling on that, Nancy? Is it a 10-year sunset? Is it a 20? Is it open?
Well, it's up to council for sure. I know the city of Iowa City is looking at whether or not they just leave it open.
Yeah.
But that's another conversation. The one thing I would say, sorry.
Oh, come on.
Go to this real quick. The one thing I would say as far as support of a campaign, a larger campaign, is it's really helpful to share with constituents all over the county, because you might have people living here working somewhere else and they're going to hear something else, to keep it as similar as possible. That's just helpful so people are hearing the same thing, voting on the same thing. But we also know each city has to dial this in so it works. We're here because Lost is good. It'll be good for our community in general. So whatever you decide to do. So that's, I think, a conversation with what you think your constituents will hold. The 10-year, the 20-year, I mean, you have to revisit it if you want to do it again. So it's a lot of work. So it's really up to you.
And that's not necessarily a decision for us to
Right. That's why I was just wondering.
But yeah, we can put an expiration date on it.
And then how often, to that point, how often is the language revisited? It's the same type of deal. Yeah.
Same type of
20% revisited. I kind of like the idea of not maybe earmarking the other 50%. To have flexibility, but I don't think we need to decide that right tonight either. Do we?
I would like to, yeah, some designation of these funds a little bit. And I would say I think 20% is probably inadequate still for housing. I've sat here consistently for over 15 years and watched developers plan out wonderful communities, wonderful neighborhoods, all of which we are fortunate to live in. But I don't hear them talk about affordability, and I don't hear them talking about setting these at rates that everyone can afford or can live in our community. And that's 15 years plus 18 years almost of nobody making this a priority. So I think we do need to make this a priority. it's 20% of these revenues, and I'm certain future councils can find a way to spend 20% of these revenues for housing purposes. I think the language that Greater IC is proposing here is general enough to give us a lot of latitude as a council and as a city. Housing is going to be an issue for many, many years because it already has been. So I'm not really in favor of a 50%, 50%. We need to designate 20% of these dollars to housing.
Well, I think you certainly bring up valid points. Just the consideration. I was appreciative of the other opinion as well, Brian. So I don't know that I've actually put enough pen to paper and figured out exactly what the percentage is yet. I don't discount the need for affordable housing, the need for some of these additional programs, but I also go back to Brian's point on we've got some things in place already. And how do we make sure that we're best pulling those levers or leveraging those existing programs? So how can we fund these more? I'm interested in not only this 20%, but the 50% as a whole. What are those capital improvement projects? 100% agree. I think we need to have a focus on that because we are not going to be able to maintain that quality of life that we've all referenced as a selling point of North Liberty if we don't do those improvement projects. Some of the other things, though, that continue to reinvest in our economic development, which also drives additional tax revenue, would be something that I'd be in favor of and consider. Say, hey, you know what, can we earmark X amount of percentages or X amount of dollars for those types of programs because they also contribute to driving what makes North Liberty grow intentionally and with a balanced approach that says, yes, economic development, yes, housing, yes, capital improvement projects. All of those things I think need to be considered. I just don't have a percentage on each of them yet.
And I think I'm comfortable with 20% for housing. I think the 30% should all be just 30%, and maybe it can be written something similar to what we have here from Greater IC for housing, but it's other types of projects, including but not limited to, and for any lawful purpose, including but not limited to sewer, water, roads. I mean, I'm hedging, I guess, but like I said, I have been involved in a community that thought they had planned out well for their ballot language, and it turned out that they missed something. So I don't want to have to redo it.
Yeah, and I think the list here that's on page 34 of capital projects coming up in the next 5 years is pretty significant. The lost revenues wouldn't cover this, so I think we can pull from that list pretty creatively and broadly, but not sound too boring. Parks, we see that every time. Also, when a new development is brought in, is there enough green space? Is there enough park space? And we're all living it, luckily, with Centennial at the moment. So let's circle back to the 20% for housing and start carving this up a little bit. I think I spoke loudly and strongly enough on my position, so I'll.
Yeah, again, while I mainly agree with you, Mayor, again, I don't want to cut off one arm at the expense of the entirety of the lost project. And again, without knowing how the language will be and how it will sell here in North Liberty, I have hesitation because I don't want to see it fail.
So you think that needs to be something a little bit different than what they proposed for language?
The language has to be right. It has to be marketed in the right way, and it can't be marketed here like it is in Iowa City, or it will fail.
Agreed. I think the ballot language Nancy mentioned, if it's consistent across all of the ballots in the region, someone living out in the county can see it on their ballot and recognize that it's something is being done in North Liberty with that exact same ballot language may draw support in that way.
Or it may turn people off. That's the thing I'm concerned about, which I think is what Brent's talking about. So
I think more specifically, not to speak for Brent, I think Brent is not necessarily that they'll be turned off, but that they just might not be interested.
Yeah, I just, after, and it's completely different language, different times, but seen it fail twice here, and everybody else in Iowa has it. This is our time, this is our turn, and I'm grateful for Greater Iowa City's leadership in stepping forward and creating the lever for us to pull, because it is time for it. So I hope my partners that I work with consistently here are hearing the message, not that I'm against it, just how do we do this in this community so that it is successful. That's my ploy.
And I think what I heard is that campaign can be unique to each community. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think part of the reason that they failed the previous 2 times is that there wasn't property tax relief in there. People probably saw it as a green light to have to be taxed more and to not exactly have much control over that. So maybe that's the approach with some conversations. I think I heard Katie say focus groups with developers, with business owners, with residents. We have we have an ambassadors group here in the city. All of those folks to be pulled in and to be a part of this. I think that might have also been a downfall the last couple of times, is that there probably weren't enough people involved in the creation of that language and groups invited to give some feedback on it.
I just don't like the language. I like the idea. So
What would you do differently with the language?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. I've been
Yeah,
thinking about it.
I'm with Brian, and it's little things here and there, and it's just, I'm looking at on the packet now here where it says, it's designated by the city council for, in North Liberty, as an example. Then it goes down on a couple pages farther. It says, next steps, is the city council interested in participating funding at a regional level, which those things, if you're presenting to be voted on, are going to get conflicting messages. And it's likely to have more resistance because, this is at a regional level. This isn't in my own backyard. Mm-hmm. And I think those types of things, although little, are impactful and probably should be revisited.
Yeah,
And I think that's in the memo.
language. Yeah.
That's Ryan's memo.
Yeah.
Just saying, do we have direction to work kind of on a regional campaign?
Fair. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, the regional partnership is with Greater IC and the other cities. But I agree with you. If there's any ballot language that says regional, it will not pass here. Yeah. So that's good clarification. Very much so.
How would you feel if you let us take a whack at this and bring something back for you to discuss at the next meeting?
Yeah, I think from what I've gathered, the first 2 questions, we got 50% of what we needed to done tonight. So yes, move forward with verbiage that is unique to North Liberty, that could be potential ballots, and then we can have a little bit more time to look at what is the right percentage. Is it 20? Who knows, Mayor? Maybe it's 25. Those types of things, right? If we arbitrarily picked a number on 20 without intent, then I'm a little bit hesitant just to say, yeah, let's just do this. So I think if we can, at least from my seat, I would put forth, yes, let's move forward with that, with Lost, and then let's have another opportunity to revisit what are the percentages and what does the verbiage look like.
And Ryan, I would ask to help our partners. I think we should march backwards from the September date and how many council meetings do we have? What's the timing? I don't want to make this harder for Greater IC.
Yeah,
I want this to move as quickly as we can, judiciously as we can, but give them the time to make it happen.
we certainly can, and I think that, I mean, their challenge that they'll have, and I don't mean to speak for you, is they're working with 3 other communities, and so they're going to want to have all that coordinated as well. I don't think, in fact, I would say for with fair positivity that we're not much farther behind and maybe about where Iowa City is right now. I think they agreed that they want to move forward with something, and they're now talking about language. So
Okay.
I think we'll be able to do that, and I'd be comfortable bringing back some ideas for consideration at the next meeting.
Yeah, and I think to clarify that point, in your collaboration of the words, I don't know how important it is that the 20% matches in the communities. If there's some consistency in there, that would help, or some benefit. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that, because this is not just it's not even a regional thing. It's not even a county thing. This is a statewide, national issue. And I think that might send a little bit of a message to this community as well as the region that we all see the same thing. We all see the difficulty in housing here and across the state and across the nation. So we're going to, as a region in our own communities, for example, put 20% of our dollars towards that problem. I think that might help. I think that may draw some folks together in that way to recognize the impact that this can make. That said, I'll leave some of the language massaging up to staff. I might propose that the remaining 30% be a combination or a blend of the things that staff has identified in here. You know, there's only 7 of them, excuse me. I think we can craft language on that 30% to hit these in a pretty impactful way.
Which page are you on, Mayor?
Oh, this is page 34.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't think we need to go beyond the scope of those projects right now.
Well, it's public safety and parks.
Yes.
And stuff.
Yeah.
And then Ryan, neighborhood and reinvestment. I think that would be good to add into that, to the other part.
I have some ideas on that, but I didn't want to get in the middle of this discussion. But yeah, I think that's a good point.
That again, that's the marketing.
Yeah, I was going to echo the reinvestment, whether it's neighborhoods, whether it's small business, whether it's workforce. There are things that we can do to continue to grow our community that will pay even more than we anticipate, because of we make the investment now and we see the result later.
All right, I think Ryan's got it. Anything else?
Just from my seat, thank you all for your hard work and efforts. Really appreciate it. Ryan, staff as well, Greater Iowa City. And gentlemen, for the discussion as well.
That's what we're here for. All right, put my agenda back up here. Katie knows where we are on the agenda.
Yes.
Let's move to item 11, which is the Greater IC ARPA Small Business Assistance Program.
So November of last year, you recall we were here discussing how to spend your last $100,000 of ARPA money. And we've entered into a contract to do so for a North Liberty Targeted Economic Development Program. So we're here today to talk about the scope of services and getting started and get your feedback on that scope to make sure we're on the right track. But here's our proposed program identified with your city staff and operationalized, and we believe we can get this launched this early fall. So I want to highlight that this program would drive economic growth in North Liberty, prioritizing locally owned and operated small businesses, supporting those businesses through targeted financial assistance, streamlined processes and incentives that would attract business, enhance the tenant spaces that are available, and support workforce development. So we have 3 key program elements I want to highlight. There's actually 2 types of programs here, though. The first is tenant improvement support. We would offer $10,000 in matching grants for facade and internal renovations and build-outs that prepare commercial space for new and expanding locally owned and operated businesses. This would encourage long-term tenancy. We've also agreed with city staff that this could be a matching grant, so a 50% cash match. Grantees would match every dollar we grant with 50% of their own dollars, and they would support one-time costs related to improvements like fixtures, facade renovations, signs, and professional services that are required. The second one would be home-based business upgrade support, rent up to $10,000 for a home-based business to grow and relocate to the North Liberty CoLab. And then any business that receives this would also get 10 hours of education and support provided by our Business Resource Center within 6 months of the award. And that's it in a nutshell. We have already heard, we put this in our existing conditions for the Strategic Investment District as pending approval with you all in discussion. We've heard from 3 businesses that are interested in locating and using these, and we're hoping to get started on this, but we'd love to have any feedback or questions you have before we get on the road.
I'll start here as we've worked closely on this, and I was one put forth this. Thank you for the feedback that there's already excitement and energy towards this. This is exactly what I had hoped it would do, is making these investments. I mentioned it with just the lost dollars. These small investments here will pay off in the long run. From my own personal seat, I think we've had just kind of off the cuff conversations, and I had 3 main priorities: workforce, small business, and then and/or hospitality and tourism. And this checks 2 of those 3 boxes. It's limited funds, so to anticipate that we'd check all 3 is probably a little bit of unrealistic thinking. But I'm very appreciative that we've got this focus on our workforce in North Liberty, our continued economic development in North Liberty, and our continued small business support in North Liberty with this. And that there's also skin in the game for those folks so that it continues to grow what we know can be successful here. So I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you.
I'm curious, you've got 3 people interested. I'm curious if any of those people are interested in moving their home businesses to the CoLab, because that's the one that I look at and is there a demand for that? And is that too restrictive?
So not yet, but the CoLab moving, asking them to relocate to the CoLab would offer immediate supports for a business. So we know that when you're in a co-working environment, especially that's located, say, in North Liberty or 808 or downtown Iowa City, there's immediate supports for a business just by being there. And I have not heard from any businesses that are ready to move from a home base, but we also haven't been able to market this yet without your approval. So I would hope that we would. I also know that Jeff Schweitzer is extremely excited about this potential and to grow the CoLab, as well as what could be the future of the CoLab in the new development.
It doesn't take much to get praise from me on economic development. Anything is better than nothing or more investment than we've had in the past. And I appreciate Brian bringing this up for discussion and you guys being willing. I know at first you're probably like, this isn't a lot of money. Like, what are we doing? Is it really worth the squeeze that we're going to get? For a local-based, small business, it really is, and it really can be. This could be significant for folks. So I appreciate the work on it because I think it will have benefit here. So.
We've had significant support going out to North Liberty businesses for our Inclusive Economic Development Granting Program. I believe 12 North Liberty businesses that I'm aware of, probably more, have been granted probably about $120,000 so far in that program. And so hopefully we can start to stack those things to support these businesses as well.
The educational component, I think is a good idea. And just this is a start, and it's not a ton of money, but if we use it all up in 6 months and it's like, oh, well, this really worked, it just gives us something to think about.
Yeah.
Something to put lost money towards.
That's
Yep.
I knew what was coming next on the agenda too. So yes.
We'll be tracking outcomes for you as well as data so that we can share all of those things and build on the success of this program.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some of that back.
Thanks, Katie.
Okay. That's all from us. Do you want me to leave anything else open?
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Thanks.
That's it for that, right? All right, let's move on to item 12, which is Hyper Energy Bar site plan, and item A is staff and commission recommendations. Russ's stand-ins tonight.
Josiah's going to take this one.
All right, there we go.
Thanks. All right, Hyper Energy Bar preliminary site plan. It's in the packet to look through. This is at the northeast corner of Ranchaw Way and Sarah Court. It's a 1,000 square foot commercial building with 2 drive-throughs and other infrastructure on approximately 0.73 acres. The current zoning is C2, highway commercial. The future land use is urban high intensity. So as Russ would say, it is consistent and appropriate use for that area. I think there's an applicant here to provide a presentation, or, yep, okay, just a second. I'll let him sort of describe the nature of the business, but from a site plan layout, this would be similar to like the scooters that we have on Penn Street. Drive-through business mostly, but they do have an outdoor seating area and a walk-up window with a pedestrian connection. And most interesting about that is we have Ranchaw Way Phase 6 under design, so we'll have a wide trail there, and they are planning in their site plan to have a connection to that in the future. We expect they'll probably be there before Ranchaw is done, but so we'll sort of mesh the coordination on the design end so that's available to them. Russ wanted me to mention that there's some images in there, renderings of the buildings, and they've done a good job of putting a high amount of masonry on there to make buildings that look good for that corridor. So he was really pleased with that. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval at its June 3rd meeting, and staff recommends approval as well of the site plan.
Any questions for Josiah?
The only question I had was, is that far enough from the intersection of Sarah Court for traffic? If, you know, because I suspect that this will be like a whole bunch of people at once and then not many and then a whole bunch of people once again.
Yeah, so they have no entrances onto Sarah Court there by Ranchaw. It's all around the corner on Jordan Street, and they've located it as far as possible into that corner, so yeah.
All right, we'll move on to applicant presentation.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Good. My name is Justin. I'm with Hyper Energy Bar. It's a new, fun energy drink coffee shop concept that we started in 2021, the fall of 21, in the Des Moines area. We since opened 5 more locations there, and then last fall opened a 7th location in Iowa City, right in the Pedmall area. So we're excited to come up to North Liberty, and even more excited to hear about all the new development with the trail and whatnot that you guys have going on there. Yeah, any questions?
You're going to have a bike rack?
Yes, we will have bike rack.
Do your energy drinks help new dog owners stay awake?
Are you speaking of this?
I'm perfectly fine. Thank you.
We do have a new location that we opened last fall in Ankeny, right on the bike trail, and lots of walk-up traffic.
Cool. Do you have chargers for all these electric bikes and scooters?
We do not.
They'll have enough energy afterwards to
Yeah, right.
pedal away.
Pedal power.
No questions from me. Just welcome to North Liberty. Thank you for considering
Thank you.
this.
Thanks, Justin. Item C is resolution number 2025-62. This is a resolution approving the preliminary site plan for Hyper Energy Bar 1695 Jordan Street, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Leibold. You guys have any other questions? All right. Stacy, roll call, please.
Sittig.
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 13 is our fireworks ordinance, and item A is public hearing regarding proposed update to the fireworks ordinance. Anyone out in the audience have any comments or questions for us? I'll close the public hearing and move on to item B, which is first consideration of ordinance number 2025-14, an ordinance amending chapter 41.10 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances governing the use of and sale of fireworks. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
By Wason, second by Leibold.
Mayor, I'll start with this one.
Sounds good.
If I
Yeah, go ahead.
was going to say, if I may,
Yep,
Councilor.
of course.
The background on this is that state law up until recently has provided that cities are empowered to regulate and restrict the use of consumer fireworks within town. The state law has been changed to add a caveat, except on these days, on these times. So all this ordinance seeks to do is bring us into compliance with the state law. It doesn't need to. The state law will apply whether we say it does or not, right? But this is to limit any confusion about what people can or can't do. I think putting it out there as the ordinance, and I think staff is going to recommend that we accelerate the readings for our next meeting so that this is in place and prior to July 3rd for the second meeting this month. But that would be done, we recommended a strong effort to communicate this to the community so they're aware of what's changed and why. And I would say we recommend approval. There's, but I think part of that is having effective communication from staff as well.
All right, Counselor.
So to Grant's point, obviously with my profession, this doesn't sit well. It has been shoved down the throats of the municipalities by the state that this is what we will do. Out of pure principle, out of my experience of tending to people who blow their hands off and set their neighbors' houses on fire, I will not be supporting it. However, I understand the position that we're all in, being forced, and it certainly makes sense that we comply with state regulation. So that's my piece. Do not shoot off fireworks in our parks. It is illegal to do so.
And could we have a little bit of clarification on two things? We'll need a 3-1 in order to pass this. And I have benefited over the years from a protest vote. So I am certainly sympathetic to that, Counselor. However, we only get one of those out of the four of you tonight on this issue. I don't think you've ever pulled that on us. So,
no, sir, I have
no,
not.
you've not. The other point, could you clarify, we were talking before the meeting, Ryan, on some specific locations where these are not allowed. Could we put that out in the public domain, please?
Sure. I think that the simple answer is you're only allowed to do it on your own property, or if you have consent from a property owner to do it. None of this is allowed on public property at all at any time.
I would also probably add, and I don't know, Grant, you could correct me, but there are a number of common spaces within a lot of our neighborhoods. So not likely on a common space unless you own that space.
The owner of the common space is the one that can give
Yeah.
permission for that. So if you have an HOA, the HOA needs to
Have permission. Yeah.
give permission through their board, right? I would just say, I'm not sure we need to publicize this at all. I'm okay changing it to comply and to be consistent, but I'm not going to tell anyone about it. Sure. That's kind of my, I guess.
Your
my
protest
pitch to
vote.
staff.
Yeah.
Anything else, Brian?
The only thing I would say is maybe we just remind people they are not allowed to be shut off on public property. And then just kind of go from there. And I'm okay with letting Brent be the protest vote.
And streets also qualify
Yes.
as
Streets,
public,
sidewalks.
not to be on streets.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Stacy, could we have roll call, please?
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith,
No.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1. Thank you all very much. Item 14 is zoning ordinance amendment. Item A is public hearing regarding proposed amendments to the zoning code, including allowance of accessory dwelling units and timeline for good neighbor meetings. I will open the public hearing. Seeing no one in the audience to address for public hearing, I'll move to item B, which is first consideration of ordinance number 2025-15, an ordinance amending the North Liberty Code of Ordinances, Chapter 165 governing zoning map amendments, Chapter 168 governing the use matrix table and uses defined and use standards, and Chapter 169 governing accessory structures and uses. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Smith. Are there any questions?
And just to grant that, again, this is kind of tying up or tidying up.
Yeah, same deal. But a little better. State law has been changed so that cities shall allow on a single family zoning district an ADU which is up to half of the square footage of the residence or 1,000 square feet, whichever is larger. There are a number of other restrictions that they would not allow. For example, one of the conversations that was had with this body before was, can you have a certain have them be one of the two units be owner occupied? No. So this is the state has said how these have to do, and so we have or Mr. Rusnick has tried to tighten up some of the ambiguities that are left from the wording of the state laws to make sure that they fit well with ours. One thing that bears mention is right now, if you have a detached, you can have one detached garage and another standalone item like a gazebo or a shed, but we have to allow under the state law an ADU. And if we're having a detached ADU, we can't say no to the ADU. But that we would change ordinance to say you might need to get rid of your gazebo if you're going to you can't have more than one of the two things. So this is to make sure that we don't end up with three things on a lot. But if we have to allow one of being an ADU. The only other thing of note here is that we've changed the timing for good neighbor meetings because our calendar was getting a little backed up. So Russ had included things for a practicality standpoint.
Anything else?
I think, well, just point of clarification then back with the homeowners associations, right? Just because I think it's important if we clarify that. Otherwise, you'll have misinformation out there.
Sure. The city will allow it, but that doesn't have any bearing on any private property restrictions, covenants, or HOA rights or other things, deed restrictions that might be in effect.
Very good. Yeah, thank you for that.
Stacy, can we have a roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 15 is our 2025A bond sale. Tiana, thank you for staying with us until now. Item A is resolution number 2025-63. This is a resolution authorizing and approving a loan agreement providing for the sale and issuance of 21,455,000 taxable general obligation urban renewal bonds, Series 2025A, and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Smith. Okay. Tiana, I'm going to just turn this over to you.
Sure. And thank you for having me. And Ryan, did you want to say anything first, or did you want me to just
Have at it.
Okay. So forgive me, I'm looking at my phone for this information. But so today at 10, we took bids for the 21,455,000 in taxable general obligation bonds. That was reduced to $21,260,000 just as a result of receiving some premium. There were 4 bids on that issuance, and I'm happy to tell you that I think we planned for a rate of, looking at this one, we planned for a rate of 5.71. It actually received a 5.39. That's why we were in part able to reduce those proceeds. And so the debt service over the life of that issuance will be about $1 million less than what we had anticipated. A significant amount of that, occurring annually. And I will also just reaffirm also that the city's rating of AA3 was confirmed by Moody's, again stating that you have strong resident income, strong debt service coverage on your road use tax revenue bonds. One of the things that they keep citing is just your financial reporting, but factors that could lead to an upgrade would be improved financial disclosure, a material increase in fund balance and liquidity, and reduction of long-term leverage. But we have the same conversation with Moody's every year, and the staff does a fantastic job of preparing them to understand exactly what the creditworthiness of the city is. And I can't say enough that my goodness, it's probably been 20 years that I've been working with the city. I've seen only improvement. And so I would like to encourage the city that the bondholders have never had a better security than they do right now with the city of North Liberty. And so you guys should feel encouraged by that. And if it's okay, I'll go on to the B issue while I'm standing here. That was also bid today. We've got 8 bids on that. And that's because, people really like your bank qualified bonds, and you don't always get bank qualified issuances that are so close to $10 million. And so whenever the city does issue on a bank qualified basis, we see lots of bidders. So there were 8 bidders there. That's another issue that came in lower than what we anticipated. The TIC there was 3.7 as opposed to 4.1. The result of that one isn't so much less debt service, but it's more proceeds. So we did see a little bit over $300,000 more in proceeds across all of the projects that are being funded, which includes City Hall, streets, and Centennial Park. So if there are any questions for me, otherwise I would definitely recommend that you award to Piper Sandler, who actually presented the best bid for both series of bonds, the taxable bonds and the tax-exempt bonds.
Thank you, Tiana.
Sure. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Tiana here?
Thank you.
Well, thank you again. It's always a pleasure working with you, and congratulations on all the other good things I got to hear about today.
Yes. That's the side benefit of staying here so long tonight. Stacy, could we have...
Mayor, I just real
Terry.
quick, sorry, I just wanted to say that my conflict with the UCD has been resolved, so I will be participating and going forward.
Thank you. Stacy, could we have roll call, please?
Yep. Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. We'll move on to item 16, which is the 2025 B bond sale. And item A is resolution number 2025-64, a resolution authorizing and approving a loan agreement providing for the sale and issuance of $8.75 million in general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2025B, and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
By Sittig, seconded by Wason. Are there any questions about this one? Stacy, we'll take roll call here too, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you again, Tiana. Safe travels. Item 17 is tobacco citation acceptance of payment, and this is item A, resolution number 2025-65, a resolution accepting payment of $300 civil penalty from M&Q LLC. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
By Wason, seconded by Smith. This is the first time for some of you seeing this type of an item.
Yeah, I'll do it real quick here, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
So in order to sell tobacco or tobacco products, you need a permit in Iowa. And if you or one of your employees sells tobacco in violation of law to a minor, for instance, the person who performs the sale is guilty of a simple misdemeanor, and the business is fined or can have escalating penalties if they've had repeat violations. That fine or penalty is levied by the agency or the entity that issues the permit, in this case, the City of North Liberty. So up until recently, we had a hearing scheduled tonight for a trial where someone would come in and we would present evidence and do the whole thing. That has never happened because everyone would much rather sign the waiver and say, no, thank you. I would prefer just to pay my fine and let you go on your way. That's what's happened here tonight. M&Q LLC is the business name for the Greenleaf vape and tobacco shop over here on Community Drive. So we did track them down in Minnesota, had to serve them through the sheriff there, and then they signed the waiver, and we received the payment, which is set by state law. We do these whenever we have a failed tobacco compliance check. We've had fewer recently because most of the point of sale business machines will actually read the license, and you have to swipe the license, and it'll beep and say, nope, you're not of age. So fortunately, we have fewer of those violations to bring your attention, but that's all. If in order to collect that money, we need to approve the resolution.
Was that work through PD proper here, or was it a county?
No, it's our
proper?
PD handles those compliance checks every year, throughout the year.
Yeah.
But we tend to get notified by the Attorney General's office that it's time to issue the penalties about the same time every year.
Any other questions? Stacy will take roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 18 is the South Fiber Project, and item A is resolution number 2025-66. This is a resolution accepting the bid and authorizing execution of the contract for the South Fiber Project, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Smith. Any questions on this? Or quiet cheers, because it was a good price. Stacy, could we have a roll call, please?
Sittig,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 19 is Urban Renewal Area Expansion and Plan Update. Item A is resolution number 2025-67. This is a resolution setting date for public hearing on designation of the expanded North Liberty Urban Renewal Area and on Urban Renewal Plan Amendment. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
By Wason, seconded by Smith. Are there any questions? Stacy will take roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 20 is Water Rate Ordinance Amendment, and this is the third consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2025-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 92.02 entitled Rates for Service of the Municipal Code of North Liberty by adopting a new section 92.02 to increase the charges for water used. Could I have a motion for consideration and adoption, please?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Sittig, seconded by Wason. Any questions? Stacy, roll call, please.
Sittig,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 21 is Sewer Rate Ordinance Amendment, and item A is also a third consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2025-09, an ordinance amending Chapter 99.02 entitled Rate of the Municipal Code of the North Liberty by adopting a new section 99.02 to increase the charges for sanitary sewer services. Could I have a motion for consideration and adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Sittig. Are there any questions about this? Stacy, roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 22 is zoning ordinance amendments, and this is also a third consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2025-10, an ordinance amending Chapter 168 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances governing residential, commercial, and industrial districts defined in dimensional standards in the use matrix table, and Chapter 173 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances governing business and public use signs. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Leibold. Any questions on that? Stacy, roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 23 is UCD Holdings LLC rezoning. This is second consideration of ordinance number 2025-11, an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from C1B General Commercial District and C3 High Intensity Commercial District to CU C3 Urban Central Higher Intensity Commercial District. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Smith. Any questions on that? Stacy, roll call, please.
Sittig,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 24 is Watts Group Development, Inc., rezoning East Side. This is second consideration of ordinance number 2025-12, an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from ID Interim Development District to RS6 Single Unit Residence District, RS9 Single Unit Residence District, RD10 2 Unit Residence District, RM12 Multi-Unit Residence District, and RM14 Multi-Unit Residence District. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Wason. Any questions on this?
Just appreciate the traffic report. And again, remembering that we prefer architectural diversity.
I think the term we used was the front door to North Liberty, right? Yeah. So, one question for me, and it's more staff. Was there any additional feedback or thoughts that we received that we hadn't already previously reviewed after the first reading?
No, you mean from the public?
Yeah, public.
No, not to my knowledge. We hadn't received any other comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Mayor John, do you have?
I do. If we could speak to the
Sure.
state a little bit.
Sure.
Very quickly.
Yeah. You guys,
That's why you came.
you've earned it. We're here. Time.
We're here for the entire show.
Yeah, we certainly took the feedback from our last engagement, and we did actually send over some information to Ryan. And Ryan, I did not know Rusnick was going to be gone this evening, but just showcasing some of the variation and variety of housing types in that RS9 category. Mayor, you asked about that as well, and it showcases the different colors. I know Brent and Paul had brought that up as well as different front elevations. And we are right now searching for new plans as we continue to look forward. We think it's important. And we did, again, send over some examples just for your viewing. So anything I missed there, John?
No, I think that's everything. I just wanted to add that again, the email went out late today. We weren't aware Russ was gone. I think Ryan Heyer might have gotten the email as well. So it's available to all of you to just see some different examples. There's also an example of there's some questions about the RM14 building type. There's an example of the RM14 building in there, a possible example of that as well, something that Watts Group has built before in North Liberty. So.
Yeah, there was some question about what that could look like. We haven't landed on anything. Obviously, that's phased a little further out, but we wanted to at least showcase something that we've built in the past. There again, we're looking at innovating and leveraging our ability to garner new plans and see what works for the future. So we want to certainly stay current.
Yeah, it's helpful to you. It makes you relevant. It's helpful to us also. So I'm grateful for your taking that initiative and finding some of those other options. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Are there any other questions?
Very responsive. I mean, local organization's been around here a long time, so for you guys to be that responsive, I'm very appreciative, and look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks for the work.
Stacy, could we have roll call, please?
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 25 is second verse, same as the first on the west side. Second consideration of ordinance number 2025-13, an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from ID Interim Development District to RS6 Single Unit Residence District, RS9 Single Unit Residence District, RD10 2 Unit Residence District, RM12 Multi-Unit Residence District, and RM14 Multi-Unit Residence District. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved Moved by Leibold, seconded by Smith. Are there any questions? Stacy will take roll call, please.
Sittig,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries. Look at that. Is there any old business? New business? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.